My heart pounded like a runaway train as I stood frozen outside the funeral home, the biting autumn wind slashing at my cheeks. In those first few 100 seconds, every happy memory of our daughter, the giggles that filled our home, the sparkle in her eyes, the way she'd race barefoot through the yard, seemed to shatter into a million painful fragments. And there I was, alone in grief, while my husband luxuriated on a yacht in the Mediterranean, his laughter echoing somewhere far away. The juxtaposition was surreal, a day meant to honor our little girl reduced to a bitter testament of betrayal. I clutched my coat tighter, swearing silently that I would not let his cruelty define me. I still remember the day we brought her home, a tiny vibrant being who transformed our dull existence into a kaleidoscope of wonder. Our daughter Mia had arrived unexpectedly, a blessing wrapped in a fragile bundle that we cherished with every fiber of our being. Her first laugh was the soundtrack of my life for years, her first steps a triumph that united our family. For a long time, our home was filled with her contagious joy, and even during the inevitable struggles, her presence was a beacon of hope. I had nurtured every moment, from bedtime stories to her excited questions about the stars, never imagining that one day, the very reason for our joy would become the source of my deepest agony. That agony became real on my birthday, the day that was supposed to be about celebrating life and new beginnings, when I received a call that shattered all illusions of safety. I was at a quiet birthday brunch with a few close friends, my smile forced but my heart light with anticipation of another year. In the middle of a toast, my phone buzzed insistently. I excused myself and answered, only to hear my husband's cold, clipped voice. "I'm leaving you and I'm taking a luxury getaway with someone new." His words cut deeper than any knife could. The line crackled with his careless laughter, and I could barely register the shock. I stood outside the bustling cafe, stunned and isolated as his betrayal echoed through my mind. That moment marked the beginning of a descent into a labyrinth of abuse, infidelity, and heartbreak that I never thought I'd have to navigate. I rushed home, tears blurring my vision, to find the house in eerie silence, a stark contrast to the life that once pulsed with laughter and shared dreams. The familiar walls now felt like cold strangers, each corner a reminder of promises broken. I began to piece together the fragments of our unraveling life. His late nights filled with mysterious calls, the secretive glances exchanged with a woman whose name I soon learned was Lisa, the very woman he'd flaunted on social media with captions like "living my best life," while I was left with nothing but grief. In the wake of his call, I discovered evidence of his infidelity, messages filled with admiration for Lisa, plans for exotic vacations without me, and even a flight itinerary for a European escape that he had booked days before my birthday. Each revelation stung, a betrayal so complete that I could no longer deny the painful truth. The man I had once promised to love forever had discarded me for a new fantasy. The days following that call were a blur of shock and sorrow. I spent my time in a state of suspended disbelief, moving through the motions of daily life while the pain raged inside me. Friends called, neighbors offered sympathy, and even my family, ever concerned, tried to comfort me. Yet, every conversation felt hollow, as if the warmth of genuine care had been extinguished by his callous abandonment. I tried to cling to memories of our early years, when love seemed infinite and problems were small and solvable, but now every memory felt tainted by his betrayal. I began to question everything. Had I been naive? Was I complicit in our slow disintegration by not noticing the signs earlier? The guilt was as crushing as the sorrow, and for nights on end, I sat alone with my thoughts, questioning my self-worth and wondering if I'd ever feel whole again. As the days turned into a week, I resolved to reclaim control over my life. I sought solace in therapy, where I poured out every detail of the betrayal, the loneliness, and the searing sense of abandonment. My therapist, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Ramirez, listened patiently as I recounted every painful moment, from the phone call that shattered my birthday to the discovery of his infidelity and the cold detachment in his voice. She helped me see that while my grief was raw, it was also a call to rebuild my life on my own terms. "Your pain," she said gently, "is a testament to the love you once believed in, but it doesn't define your future. You have the strength to rise from this, even if it feels impossible right now." Her words, though soft, planted a seed of hope that began to sprout amidst the desolation. One particularly stormy night, as rain lashed against my window and I sat huddled on the couch, I decided I could no longer remain in the wreckage of our marriage. I had to confront the reality of my husband's betrayal head-on. I called him, voice trembling with a mix of anger and despair, demanding to know why he had chosen to leave on such a cold, impersonal note. For a long moment, there was only silence on the other end. Then, when he finally answered, his tone was flat, as if reciting lines from a script. "I don't owe you an explanation," he said curtly, and with that, he hung up. The call left me feeling even more abandoned, a solitary figure in the midst of a storm of emotions. That night, I packed a small bag with essentials and made a decision. I would no longer wait for him to return or apologize. I would start the process of rebuilding my life independently, no matter how daunting the road ahead. I began by gathering all the legal documents related to our shared assets. Our house, the small business we'd built together, even the joint bank accounts, all were now part of the tangled web of our disintegrating union. I consulted with a divorce attorney, Ms. Gallagher, whose pragmatic approach and compassionate demeanor gave me a sliver of hope. Over hours of conversation, she explained that I had every right to demand a fair settlement, especially given the emotional and financial abuse I had endured. "You deserve to be treated with respect even in dissolution," she assured me. Her words were a balm to my wounded spirit, and as we pored over documents, I realized that although the legal battle would be long and painful, it also offered a path to reclaiming my autonomy. With each passing day, I immersed myself in the legal process, determined to protect my interests and secure a future unburdened by his betrayal. I discovered that he had already taken steps to liquidate some of our joint investments, and that his new partner, Lisa, had been implicated in some of these dubious financial maneuvers. The deeper I dug, the more I realized that his departure wasn't just a personal abandonment, it was a calculated move to sever ties and consolidate his wealth with someone who, presumably, shared his unscrupulous ambition. The realization sparked a fire within me. I wasn't just fighting for myself, but for every dream we'd built together that he had so casually dismantled. At one point, I received a text from a mutual friend, urging me to calm down and let him come around, as if my pain was something that could simply be forgotten with time. I almost replied with anger, telling them that waiting for him to realize his mistake would only prolong my suffering. Instead, I took a deep breath and resolved to focus on my own healing. I enrolled in a mindfulness course and began journaling every thought, every flash of anger and every glimmer of hope. The process was painful, but it gradually helped me sort through the chaos of my emotions. I began to see that while his betrayal had cut deep, it had also freed me from the shackles of a relationship built on deception. The divorce proceedings dragged on, each hearing a brutal reminder of the life I once knew. There were days when I felt overwhelmed by the legal jargon, the endless meetings, the cold, sterile courtrooms that bore no resemblance to the warmth of our early love. But through it all, I clung to the memory of my daughter's laughter, the support of my friends, and the unwavering advice of Dr. Ramirez. I learned to channel my grief into determination. Every tear, every moment of despair, became fuel to fight for a future where I wasn't defined by his cruelty. One morning, I woke to find a stack of divorce papers neatly arranged on the kitchen table, a final reminder that our union was coming to an end. I sat at the table, sunlight streaming through the window, and with trembling hands, I signed my name on the final document. Each stroke of the pen felt like a bittersweet goodbye to the man I had once loved, and to the dreams we'd shared. In that moment, I promised myself that I would not let his betrayal dictate the rest of my life. I would rebuild, piece by piece, a life that honored my worth and embraced the possibility of genuine love. After the court's final ruling, I returned to our house, now solely in my name, to gather the remnants of our shared past. I moved through each room, pausing to look at old photographs, cherished mementos that once symbolized our unity. Every item was a reminder of what had been lost, but also of the love that had once been so real. With each box I packed, I felt a weight lift, as if the physical act of sorting through memories was also purging the bitterness that had taken root. I decided to renovate the house, to create a space that reflected the new chapter of my life, a sanctuary free of the shadows of betrayal. As I tore down old wallpaper and repainted the walls in warm, hopeful hues, I allowed myself to dream again. I envisioned a future where I would open a small art studio in the renovated house, a place to host community events and share my passion for creativity. Slowly, the house transformed from a mausoleum of broken promises into a canvas for new beginnings. Neighbors began to comment on the fresh look of the place, and I found myself smiling at the prospect of turning that pain into something beautiful. Meanwhile, news of our divorce spread through our social circles like wildfire. Some friends whispered that I was too harsh, that I should have given him a chance to explain. Others admired my strength, praising me for standing up for myself when he thought he could simply walk away. I encountered mixed reactions at my workplace, sympathy from some, judgment from others, but I learned to focus on what mattered, my healing and my future. I started attending support groups for those recovering from infidelity and domestic betrayal, where I met others who shared similar scars. Their stories resonated with me, and slowly I began to see that my pain was not a mark of failure, but a testament to my resilience. A particularly turning point came during one of these support meetings. A woman named Rachel, whose husband had left her for another woman, told me, "You deserve someone who cherishes you, not someone who uses you to fund his wild schemes." Her words hit me like a revelation. I realized that while I still harbored a deep love for the man I had married, that love had been poisoned beyond repair. It wasn't about bitterness or revenge, it was about reclaiming my dignity and my right to live without fear of betrayal. As the months passed, I slowly rebuilt my life. I moved into a small, cozy apartment that I could call my own, far away from the memories of that painful house. I took up yoga and meditation, learning to quiet the turbulent thoughts that sometimes threatened to overwhelm me. I even started dating again, cautiously at first, testing the waters of a world where trust had been shattered but not completely lost. Every new connection was measured, every step forward a victory over the despair that had once seemed insurmountable. My husband's new relationship, as it turned out, was a hollow pursuit. Lisa, his new partner, appeared on social media only sporadically, her glossy images of luxury vacations and lavish dinners a stark contrast to the raw emptiness in his eyes. I heard whispers that he eventually regretted leaving our home, that the freedom he craved was fleeting and soured by loneliness. But I never let his regrets pull me back into his orbit. I was done with his manipulations, his deceptions, and his cruel attempts to discard me like a broken toy. In time, I found solace in the support of family, those who had always stood by me, even when my husband's actions had driven a wedge between us. My parents, though distant for much of my adulthood, reached out with gentle words of comfort and reminders that I was always worthy of love and respect. Their kindness, coupled with the unwavering support of my close friends and the wisdom of my therapist, began to mend the fractures in my heart. I often sit by the window of my new apartment in the early mornings, sipping coffee and watching the sun rise over the city skyline. The view is a mosaic of possibilities, each light a promise that no matter how dark the night, dawn will come. In those quiet moments, I reflect on the journey, the crushing betrayal on my birthday, the cold, mocking voice of a man I once loved, the loneliness of attending our daughter's funeral, and the long, painful process of rebuilding a life from the ruins. Every memory, every scar has taught me that while heartbreak is inevitable, it does not define us. Instead, it can be the catalyst for an inner revolution, a transformation that leads to a life more authentic and true. Today, I am no longer the woman who crumbled under the weight of betrayal. I am a survivor, a warrior who turned the ashes of shattered dreams into the bricks of a new future. I've learned to trust my instincts, to set boundaries, and most importantly, to cherish my own worth. My journey has not been easy. There are still nights when I lie awake, haunted by the sound of his final, callous laugh. But each day, I rise with renewed strength and a clear vision of the life I want to create. One where I am respected, valued, and free to pursue my own happiness. I have redefined success on my own terms, focusing on my passions, my career, and the relationships that nurture me. The pain of that fateful birthday will always be a part of me, a reminder of the fragility of trust and the importance of self-respect. But it is also a symbol of my growth, a transformation that turned sorrow into power, betrayal into determination. I stand now not as a victim of infidelity and abuse, but as someone who reclaimed her narrative, who refused to let another's cruelty determine her fate. And so, as I look out at the horizon from my apartment balcony, the soft glow of the rising sun mingling with the promise of a new day, I feel a deep, abiding peace. I know that my future is mine to shape, that every challenge I've overcome has prepared me for what lies ahead. My husband may have called me names and discarded our life together in pursuit of a fleeting fantasy, but I have the strength to move on. I have the courage to build a life filled with genuine love, honest connections, and the quiet triumph of self-reclamation. In the end, what he did may have stunned me, but it also awakened me. I discovered that even in the face of the deepest betrayal, I possess an unyielding resilience. My journey, marked by pain and loss, has also been a testament to the transformative power of forgiveness, not for him but for myself. I forgive myself for ever doubting my worth, for ever allowing someone to diminish my light. I embrace the scars as part of my story, as evidence of the battles I've fought and won. And as I step into each new day, I do so with the knowledge that I am strong, I am capable, and I will never again be defined by someone else's cruelty. This is my story, a story of heartbreak and betrayal, of shattered dreams and hard-won victories. It is a story of a woman who, in the darkest hour of her life, found the strength to stand tall and reclaim her future. My husband's callous declaration that he was leaving and selling our business for a new partner may have been his final, cruel act, but it also became the turning point that set me free. And in that freedom, I found a new beginning. A life built on my own terms, where I am no longer at the mercy of someone who would rather flaunt his betrayal than face the consequences of his actions.